Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another video, and a bit of good news today. Good news in the British TV sector, which is a direct opposite to what we've had a lot of recently, but it's to do with BBC iPlayer. Now, I'm sure we all know what BBC iPlayer is. It launched in 2007. It's the main video-on-demand streaming service for the BBC. It's grown exponentially across the last 15 plus years. And I saw this article from TV Zone UK. Definitely go and check them out. They do a lot of great articles on broadcasting and what's coming up on TV, what series are being renewed, which ones are being cancelled. If you're into all that sort of stuff, definitely check out their work. But it says BBC iPlayer becomes the fastest growing video-on-demand platform in the UK. Now that's a pretty big title, and one I'm sure the BBC will be happy to have. I'm certain recently that Channel 4 and their streaming platform also either claimed like a similar accolade, or it claimed that it was just doing well, it was growing, and it seems the BBC is following in them footsteps. BBC iPlayer has recorded remarkable year-on-year growth and is outstripping all its competitors across all audiences, powered by creativity and storytelling from across the UK. Now, all competitors, I'm assuming we're talking not just about the traditional TV companies doing this, we're talking about like Netflix, Disney+, Amazon, and also all audiences. So this isn't just becoming a hit with the young, which I'm guessing was the primary reason why all these companies are going streaming first. They want the younger generations in, but all audiences. Are we including all the olders in there as well? It says the truly distinctive British service continues to break records, up over 20% this year so far. BBC iPlayer's viewing growth is twice that of Netflix, 3 times ITVX, and 4 times that of Channel 4. Is that so? I'm certain Channel 4 said they were doing better on their streaming stuff. But regardless, again, the more than ITVX and Channel 4, not to like diss them, but I'd sort of expect that, just given like the pedigree the BBC has and the, you know, that it's just been around longer. But double Netflix, twice the amount of Netflix, which some would argue is still like, it was the boom, it was the progenitor of this streaming revolution. But the fact that iPlayer is getting twice as much growth compared to Netflix, but you could also argue that down to competition. You know, Netflix, it hasn't been around as long as the iPlayer, but its growth was very sharp, I think, to begin with. Those first few years when it really started pushing the streaming model, particularly with its own series in like the early 2010s. The unique range available to audiences on BBC iPlayer provides a breadth of content and experiences that they can't find anywhere else. This is underlined by the record levels of people coming to iPlayer this summer, which has grown 10% on the same time last year. Our summer of live events generated over 350 million requests. Now, obviously, that's a positive number. Let's just say we've had a lot of summer events, though, which is why I guess people will be switched onto their TV. You know, you had the Wimbledon tennis tournament. We had the UK election, which, you know, you could debate whether that's an event, but it definitely was. I mean, it concerns all of us. You had the Euros as well, which was split with ITV, but I think undoubtedly the big one was the Olympics. Now, the BBC, I think, did quite well with what they had, because Discovery owns the full rights, I think, to show every sport, you know, at any time you want, whereas the BBC had to make do, I think, with 2 different streams and, you know, highlight clips and all that sort of stuff. But they're no strangers to this. They've had to do this before, and I think they present it in a really neat, well-sourced package. So undoubtedly the Olympics drew a lot of attention because a lot of us are fascinated by the Olympics and like to watch it, so that will have helped the growth. The successes can be seen across every month in 2024 so far. BBC iPlayer has brought people together for unmissable content, from Gladiators and The Traitors to The Apprentice, Race Across the World, Doctor Who, EastEnders, and The Jetty, to the big live events including the general election, Glastonbury, and to the incredible summer of sport with the Euros, Wimbledon, and the Olympics. So we already talked about the summer stuff, but again, the programming, Gladiators was a big hit at the start of this year. The Traitors, again, continuing its dominance in that field as well. That gets rave reviews. Race Across the World also seems to do really well, whether it's the celebrity edition or the regular one. A lot of people seem to enjoy that. Doctor Who, what can I say? I'm a bit biased as a big fan of the show, but it's nice to see it, you know, receive a lot of the positive praise it has, and I know a lot of new people who have now come into the show now that Shooty Gap was at the helm, so that seems to be working. EastEnders seems to be going from strength to strength. Like, you know, this time last year, I and some others as well was sort of saying maybe it's time for it to wrap up, but it seems to just be going from strength to strength in terms of what it's offering, in terms of people enjoying it, and considering its 40th anniversary is only a year away, it's in a good place, it seems. Backing British storytelling and talent has ensured BBC iPlayer stands out from the crowd. It offers an unrivaled depth and diversity across genre, as audiences crave more authentic British stories, like recent documentaries on Sarah Everard, Liz Carr's Better Off Dead, Freddie Flintoff's Field of Dreams, and The Met, and new comedy hits like Daddy Issues, Mammoth, and We Might Regret This. Now, I haven't tuned into any sort of BBC comedy in quite a while. However, there are still a lot of people who say some of the new comedies coming out, whether they be on BBC Three, BBC Two, BBC One, wherever they're dropping, they're of really good quality, really high quality, in fact. And the British stories, as they say, I think why they do well is obviously because with the vast majority of your audience, obviously being Brits, those stories they can either relate to, or they remember them, or they find more intrigue and interest in them. So, it's no wonder that they've decided to dive headfirst into British storytelling and using the British talent as well. And again, as the nation's public service broadcaster, they're also kind of expected to do that in a way. The BBC's Chief Content Officer, Charlotte Moore, says our digital transformation strategy is working. The BBC has grown market share, gaining against the global streamers, as well as our UK competitors. BBC iPlayer has had another record-breaking year, and its incredible growth story is a clear signal that we are offering audiences uniquely British content that they really value. It would have been good, I think, to drop what that market share is now. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but, the fact that it's gaining market share, it's doing well against its competitors. The service is nearly 20 years old, and for it now to still be receiving year-on-year growth, every month so far in 2024, it's had a positive number, that positive reflection. That's really impressive. And yes, I know they've changed a lot about the iPlayer to shift more towards marketing it as well. Like when you see trailers on TV or hear it on the radio, you seldom hear it say it's going to be on BBC One or whatever. It's like it's always on the iPlayer, and it's driving more traffic to the iPlayer as well. This is a success story for UK creativity because as the biggest investor in UK producers, talent and skills, the value from our spend is retained in the UK and benefits the long-term sustainability of our world-class sector. In a competitive global market, BBC iPlayer stands out as the home of distinctive British content, made here, authentically told, and universally available to all. That was again spoken from the Chief Content Officer, Charlotte Moore. And again, it's saying they're the biggest investor in UK producers. I doubt that she'd be lying about this, but I think I've always thought Channel 4 was also on this. And I think Channel 4 is really their main competitor. Yes, ITVX is a thing. I am aware of that. But it feels like in terms of the style and the content offered, it's really the BBC versus Channel 4 when it comes to their streaming services. Now, I think the iPlayer is a bit more refined. It's a bit more fine-tuned. I personally find it a bit more accessible, a bit easier to use. But Channel 4 in recent years with their streaming service is catching up. And I think the BBC, obviously they work with ITV and Channel 4 for various things, but I think, they also got to be wary that their competition might overtake them if they get complacent. That last line as well, authentically told and universally available to all, it comes back to the license fee, doesn't it? Because yes, it is available, but people keep asking the question, do you actually need a TV license if you're just watching stuff on the iPlayer? To answer that question, the BBC itself provides an answer. Yes, a valid TV license is required to watch or download any programs on BBC iPlayer on a TV or any device, including a phone, a tablet, or a computer. And if you don't, it's a criminal offence. You could be fined up to £1,000, etc., etc. More questions, though. Do I need a TV license to watch iPlayer when I'm away from home? Say if you're on holiday or just not at your house. Yes, you are covered to use iPlayer when you're away from home, as long as you have a TV license at your home address and the device you're using isn't plugged in. If the device is plugged in at a separate address, there needs to be a license in place at that address. So, if I'm watching iPlayer on my laptop and I'm using its own battery, that's all good, but the minute I plug it into a wall, I better hope whoever I'm staying with has a TV license or I'm in trouble. I'm not sure how often that gets monitored. I don't even know. I don't think people check this. So, is it free? Not necessarily. Using the iPlayer legally, I suppose, is going to cost you at least £170 a year. But I don't know these days how much is it monitored? How often are the, as they call them, the license fee goons going round prosecuting people or fining people? Obviously, I've always had a TV license. That's something I haven't had to worry about. But let me know in the comments if you've actually seen these people go out and about doing this, because I truly don't know how much this is monitored or looked at. But the crux of it is, regardless of the license fee, BBC iPlayer seems to be on the up. The numbers are positive, they're pushing forward with all the programming that's doing well, again, like the Traitors, Race Across the World, etc. They're putting out content which might not be to everyone's taste. I mean, you could argue no program is to everyone's taste, but they're putting out this wide variety of programming, trying to serve different people, trying to capture different age ranges, different demographics, different backgrounds, which they are, you could argue, obliged to do, being the nation's public service broadcaster, and it seems that it's paying its dividends, which is great for the service, it's great for the BBC, it's a bit of positive news for the entire industry. I mean, we've talked about the whole survive to 2025 thing. A lot of the independent production companies are at risk of disappearing because of increased costs, amongst other things, so a bit of positive news for the TV industry, even if it is specifically for the BBC, which I know is going to rile some people up. A bit of positive news that the sector is growing, it's outstripping its competitors in terms of growth. As to whether that growth is going to hold, though, that's going to be the true test. You know, the BBC is continuing to digitize, to make things more online based. We've talked about that a lot, how various channels are eventually going to disappear from traditional TV. You're only going to find them online. That's partly to save costs, but I think that's also, again, to try and get new generations, younger demographics, because as we've said before, a lot of them, if they do consume any TV, it's becoming less and less the traditional channels, it's becoming the streamers, like the Netflix and your Disney Plus and all that sort of stuff. So whilst this is good news for the BBC at the moment in the short term, I do wonder how they're going to capitalize on this, if they're going to keep pushing this for 2025 and beyond. I mean, they arguably need to, otherwise they and other companies like them are going to be in a spot of bother. But that is all for this video. I just wanted to share some positive news because I am aware, like, obviously a lot of what goes on in the TV media world can be construed as negative. So it's nice when you get a bit of positive news like that, that things are growing, the industry is seeing a healthy boost in certain sectors. Long may that continue. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, it really does help us out, and subscribe to the channel if you're new as well, because we'd love to have you aboard. And let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. What do you think about this news? Do you think iPlayer is going to keep growing as we move into 2025 and beyond, or do you think this is just like a one-time thing? You know, we had a big summer of sport and all that sort of stuff, and that growth is eventually going to drop. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Bruce Danton, Derek Chambers, Shaun Knock, Daud Khan, Liam De-Maine, Trev Hughes, Ajmac 200017, Deck, Evonne Hart 41, Jen, Traffi, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Ted Elliott, Marnanel Thurman, John Wakefield, Kieran Bolton, and 40-something Manchild, our AMTV staff members.